alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading. I'm Tim Niederreiter, and with me today is a new guest, one of those people we love to have on the podcast, a great writer, Kelly Brakenhoff. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Tim. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you on. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what sort of stuff you write.
Sure. So, like you said, my name is Kelly, and I am super excited to talk to someone other than my dogs today because I've been home all day in quarantine. Normally, when I'm not at home with my dogs all day, I am actually an American Sign Language interpreter. Living the dream in Lincoln, Nebraska. My husband and I are empty nesters, and we have 2 dogs. I write 2 series. One is a children's picture book series, which features Duke the Deaf Dog. And then I have a cozy mystery series called the Cassandra Sato Mysteries. The first one is called Death by Dissertation, and the second is Dead Week. The mysteries, the main character is Cassandra Sato. She trades her life in Hawaii, where she was born and raised, for a dream job in Nebraska. No one does that. She thinks working at a small liberal arts college will help her get experience to someday become a university president. But 2 months in, a student dies and she has to help with the investigation. Mayhem ensues and her job rapidly becomes a nightmare.
Ooh, that's a good pitch. I've been practicing that one.
I have been.
That's very good. You delivered it very well.
Well,
and it sounds interesting,
Yeah, no one moves from Hawaii to Nebraska, but I actually moved at one point from Nebraska to Hawaii, so I just kind of reversed it for my book.
Inversions, they're a good way to go, honestly. I think they're a funny way to. I mean, it's a good way to get a story. Like, what if it was the other way around?
Yeah, that is that what if question.
Yeah, absolutely, and actually, that kind of does segue nicely into you've got the picture book. What I mean, obviously, it ties in seems to tie in closely with because the dog. I mean, he's a deaf dog. It's right there in the title. It fits in very well with the American Sign Language stuff. So, what inspired you to write a children's book?
Well, it's kind of funny. Ever since I was little, I always wanted to be a writer, and I have a younger sister, and she is an amazing artist. And when we were little, we used to make homemade comic books about a dog and a cat, and I would do the words, and she would draw the pictures. So it was kind of like Snoopy meets Garfield, except it was really, really bad. And so that was kind of the beginning. I mean, I always wanted to be a writer. My sister always wanted to be an artist. She actually grew up and became an artist. And then I grew up and became an American Sign Language interpreter. So, it took me, I took a very long detour through 4 children and a long career, but it's something I just never gave up on and I always wanted to do. The books, it's really kind of funny because I actually started writing the mysteries first, and I spent about 5 years working on my first book, the Death by Dissertation, and I had to kind of decide at a certain point if I was going to get an agent and a publisher or if I was going to self-publish it. And so it took me about, over a year to figure that out. And in that process, I decided to self-publish it. So I had to form my own publishing company. And I just kind of woke up one morning, I'm thinking that I was queen of the world. And I said, okay, if I have my own publishing company, that means I can do whatever I want. I can publish any book that I want. So I kind of just sat there thinking what does the world need that I know about that I could give that, what could I do? And so I swear this is the truth. I just thought one day, I need to write a book for deaf kids because I've spent my whole life working with deaf people. I know lots of really cool deaf people, and I wanted kids that are deaf to be able to see themselves in books. And there's really, really very few children's picture books that have deaf characters in them or that deaf kids can relate to. And so that was just kind of how I got the idea to do that book. So it actually kind of came very recently. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's interesting. But it fits so well. It's like, okay, American, sign language and then a book for deaf kids. It's just really, I mean, it's one of those kind of synergistic things. It's really cool.
It is. Yeah. Like I remember all the years that I put off writing and put off being an author. And I kind of would feel bad every once in a while that I wasn't, living my dream and everything. But of course, I always have been living my dream. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and then
the path is the dream, right? Like
right.
It's the journey. It's not the end, right? And it finally took me a while to figure that out. But yeah, this is so cool because I took the thing that I love. I love interpreting. I've met so many really cool deaf people doing that. And I love writing, and to be able to put those two together has just been such a pleasure. And really, it's only been, over just a little over a year since I started working on the first children's book, and it's become like a passion. I mean, it's super cool.
That's wonderful. It's funny. I mean, and it's one of those things that I've been trying to do recently because obviously I write fiction as well. I write science fiction, fantasy mostly, but it's one of those. There's this weird issue I've run into that doesn't sound like you have it. It's just more of just a me problem where I've lost track of sometimes. And actually, like every morning I wake up and I forgot why I wanted to be a writer. It's not a good place to be. Let me tell you that. And I'm really working hard on remembering every morning and making it a habit so it doesn't go away. Because. It sounds like you obviously you didn't really have that problem. It was always kind of something you had in the back of your mind, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it was always something I just dreamed of. It was on my bucket list, and the year that I turned 50. Well, it was actually a couple years before I turned 50. I was just like, dude, if you don't start, you're never gonna do this. Like at a certain point, you just have to say, like, are you doing it or not? And so that was kind of where. My first book, the first thing that kind of got me finally going was NaNoWriMo. So I did that. The first one I did was in 2014. And I just thought, my thing is, and I've done this for many different topics or challenges, is I can do anything for 30 days. Like I can not eat bread, I cannot eat meat, I can run, I can do anything for 30 days, right? I can be quarantined in my house and not go anywhere for 30 days.
We're getting on there, yeah.
I'm past that. Okay.
Oh, you are? Okay. Go on.
I'm on I just finished week 5.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Go on.
As I pause to drink from my my drink, yeah. So yeah, but you can do anything for 30 days. So that was kind of the challenge to me of NaNoWriMo. That's why I liked it, was like, okay, if I can't even do this for 30 days, how do I think I'm going to write a book? So it's just kind of like, and just doing that. And so I have to ask you, you said that, you kind of lost you wake up every morning like, okay, why am I doing this? So do you have to write every day? Like, is that like your thing? Is that your goal, to write every day?
No, but not really, because now that I'm dictating, I can go really fast.
Oh, I know. Isn't it so much faster?
It's so fast. I mean, I used
to start like 2 weeks ago.
My listeners are probably tired of hearing about this, but I was a slow typist. I wrote like 30 words a minute at best. And that was pretty rare. And now I can dictate 100 words a minute if I really put my mind to it.
Wow.
So, and I can do that pretty consistently for an hour. I mean, 100 words a minute. I mean, usually, to get a clean draft, it's more like 80, but that's still pretty good.
Yeah, that's very good. I just bought,
and I've only been doing it since last summer. Sorry, go on now.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just bought, or I just read, what's his name? The 5,000 words and.
Oh yeah.
Chris Fox. Yes. right? Chris Fox?
Yes, Chris Fox, yes.
Yes. I just read that book a few weeks ago. And again, I took that was like the first week of quarantine. I was like, I stared at the cursor for like 3 days and I was just like, oh my gosh, I thought, okay, if I'm stuck home all day long, I should be able to write this book in like 2 weeks. This is awesome. And then I sat there and like stared at my laptop for hours at a time. And I would procrastinate in every way possible. And I got that book and it was just so, again, I love a challenge, but it was kind of inspiring. Like, okay, you can go faster. You can do this. And so I've been really trying to put into practice some of the things in that book, and it's helped me a lot.
It's very much a fitness kind of thing. And so, and he actually since a bunch of his books have been on sale for quarantine, I don't want to, I mean, I guess I could do a brief plug for Chris Fox's books. His nonfiction books for writers are really solid.
His other one too. What's the other one?
He has like 5 of them.
I got the other one, Superfan one, Strangers to Superfans.
Strangers to Superfans.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet.
I think that's actually Pete Gogren.
Is that him? Dave Gogren?
Dave Gogren, yeah. I think that's
so what's the other Chris Fox one? Because I bought
there's
Chris Fox one.
There's plot gardening. There's plot gardening, 6-figure author.
Oh yeah.
There's a bunch of them.
I think I bought like 3 of them because weren't they like 99 cents each?
Oh yeah, launch to market, right to market. So there's 5.
Oh yeah, okay.
At least 5, I think.
Yeah. So I think I dropped like $3 or $4, and I was like, okay, good. All right.
They were all 99 cents for quarantine, so they probably still are, folks. And I would recommend at least, especially I would recommend. Oh, Lifelong Writing Habit, the one I forgot the title of before. That one is really good, and if you're just starting out as a writer, that's an amazing book.
Okay.
And it also worked for me, and I read it, and I've been writing for 17 years.
Oh wow.
And that's over half my life. I've been writing for longer than I have not been writing. So
I read a Christmas letter.
Sorry, what did you say?
I read a really good Christmas letter.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
For years, that was like all I could do. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I always wanted to be a writer. And so, but I was so busy with my family and my life that for years, like my Christmas letter was like my one thing that I would spend a lot of time on and get a lot of praise for. And I was like, okay, I don't really want to be known for my Christmas letter.
Yeah, I mean, that's not, I mean, it's nice, but you can do both. You can do that and have books, you know. It's not like you don't want the Christmas letter to be the top of what you do. You know? Exactly.
So yeah, as that 50-year-old birthday kind of started coming on the horizon, I was like, okay, no, gonna have to do something else.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I mean, not to get too deep into my past, but like I always knew I wanted to be a writer as well. Mm-hmm. But when I was a teenager, I'm like, you know, eventually you got to just start, and I did, and I wrote some terrible books back then. Because I was, like I said, not a great teenager, but also teenagers don't know enough to write a book that's quality most of the time.
That is the truth.
They can write a book that's good, but they can't. Mm-hmm. They won't know enough to fix it. It's just the first time thing, you know. It takes for actually one of the books I did write as a teenager is good enough, and it was out there for a while. I'm repackaging it, rebranding it, but that one I wrote when I was 19, not when I was 13, to put things in perspective. Wow. So it took a while to get there. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, the point about the feeling called to do it though is when you think about when I was a teenager, I would think about the book all day during school, and I'd go back home and I'd write, or I'd write during class. Sometimes I'd write in. If I had a computer class, I'd just I would just type in the computer class. Bring a jump drive or whatever, so I'd have it. This is really going to date me because I didn't just email it myself. But there you go.
Was it on a floppy disk?
No, it wasn't a floppy disk.
Oh, then you're not really dating her. Yeah, see, it's a
positive date right now, but maybe in 10 years. Yes, I'm a wee baby, as they say. My 6'4" self is a wee baby. But yes. Anyway, the issue I have now though is of course that I kind of took on this like, and this is going to relate back to you because it is like, you know, people who live a more complete life, maybe you might say, have a lot more to do than a guy who basically has only ever been a writer. And as that's the only thing, and
Yeah.
has, I literally gave up most of the other things I could have been doing to write. And
Uh-huh.
now, and now over the years, he's kind of turned into this kind of. And I'm sorry, this is going to be a little personal, but it turned into kind of this like this kind of grim thing that I have to do. I'm here to write. This is my thing. But that's missing the point completely. I remember now. I wrote an essay when I was in a creative writing class in college, and it was all about how it was not even the whole essay. It was just like a few lines where I'm like, yeah, I'm more about entertainment than I'm about working hard, And I think that's still true. And I think I need to get back to those roots,
Mm-hmm.
to that kind of
Or
focus on just enjoying the story. It's like I'm reading a book,
yeah,
but I am writing it. How does that kind of
right.
make sense to you?
Oh yeah, that part of it, especially where I don't really write that way, but I really admire writers who talk about how they just follow their characters around and write down what they do.
Yeah,
And
maybe
and
I
I
could
don't
go.
think of it that way when I do it. I kind of think of it as like this staged production that I'm like orchestrating. And so I love the vision that I've heard other authors say where they just follow their characters around and write down what happens. It seems less, I don't know, like less pressure.
Yeah, and actually, when I feel pressure, I basically can't write. It's one of those weird things. Like
Yeah.
I react very badly to pressure when it comes to creativity.
Oh, well, that's why I think this virus and the quarantine has been so difficult. It took me a couple of weeks just to stop whining basically and just
Mhm.
suck it up and be like, all right, 6, 8 weeks, however long is going to go by. And at the end of it, what'd you do? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
not that I have to do anything super amazing, but do I really, really want to say that I spent all this time and I did nothing? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense to me.
uh,
Yeah. What is your current project, if you don't mind me asking?
oh, sure. I have a couple. I wrote a second children's book, and I don't think I mentioned, but my sister is actually the illustrator. So
You
we
mentioned
kind
your
of came,
sister, and you never didn't
yeah,
quite connect
we
it
came
before.
full circle. We came full circle from our horrible Garfield Snoopy comic books to she actually did the illustrations for Duke the Deaf Dog, and she's wonderful. She's amazing, and I love the illustrations. And so I wrote the second book, and she's working on the illustrations right now. So we hope to have those out this summer. Actually, it might be a little faster because she's off work too. So who knows? We might get to publish a little bit early. So that's one thing I'm working on. And then I'm also right now working on the third Cassandra Sato book. And it takes place during winter break in between the semesters. And of course, it's in Nebraska, so there's going to be a large snowstorm, and yeah, all kinds of mayhem and problems happening around Christmas, around the winter break.
Nifty. Yeah. So when you write a cozy mystery, you say you see your books like a staged production. So do you have to know who the killer is to begin with? That kind of thing.
You would
That
think,
kind of classic question.
you would think.
Like, because I know Agatha Christie didn't
That's
always know who the killer was,
yeah,
or generally didn't know.
fascinating. It is. It's really fascinating. I went to BoucherCon last fall in Dallas, and that was the first conference I'd ever been to, and it's the crime fiction world crime fiction conference. And so it's not just cozy mysteries, it's everybody in there, but I loved listening to those people because it really varies. Like you said, Agatha Christie didn't necessarily know who did it until the end, and then some people, have it all mapped out down to the section and the scene and everything. And it's just so interesting how people can get there in such different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to all kinds of
Mhm.
there's a lot to all kinds of approaches to writing. I've tried many approaches over the years because I've never really settled on one that I think is for me. Even though I'm still based, I'm pretty sure I discovery write. That's my most effective way to write.
Mhm.
But it depends on the book. That's the other thing. A lot of writers
Yeah.
will say that it's like different books want different stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I've noticed too, I like to read a lot of thrillers and mysteries. That's probably the two things I read the most. And I didn't know at the time when I first started writing my first book that I picked like one of the hardest things to do.
Yes.
Like I wish someone had, I probably wouldn't have listened if they told me because I'm stubborn, but yeah, like mysteries are hard. And so like, you can write your story from point A to point B to point C, but then you have to go back and check all the clues and make sure the red herrings fit and make sure all that other stuff goes. And you got to have like extra people to blame it on. And it's just like, it's just not a straightforward story between, a few people. And so I think that's probably the fun part of it is the challenge of it, but it's also what makes it, I think, actually pretty difficult to do well. So when I see a mystery now, and I like the people that I like to read, if it's good, it makes me respect them so much because I can see how hard it is. Like Agatha Christie is amazing because she pulled that stuff off, man. I mean, it's hard.
And most of the time, at least if I remember correctly, she even said she she didn't know who the killer was going to be. It's like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Any of them could have done it, that kind of thing. But that's maybe a slightly easier way to go. Is like any of these people could have done it. And honestly, the one Agatha Christie book that I read was "And Then There Were None."
I love that.
I read that back.
Yeah.
And I mean, that one's almost a cop out though. At the end, it's a good book.
I agree. It's
like okay, so like how did that guy do it? Anyway, no spoilers.
Definitely some stuff just floating down from the sky. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but that one's almost like she wrote herself into a corner, which I totally understand. I mean, that's. I just had to throw out 80,000 words of an epic fantasy novel because that's just how it went. I was like, oh, this isn't going anywhere. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
They're
sorry.
still there. They're still there. It's okay.
I would cry.
I'm already back to 20,000. I was halfway through the book, and now I'm an eighth of the way through the book.
That would be hard. That would be so more.
It was a hard decision. It was a tough decision because. I mean, for a lot of people, that is a whole book. That's 80,000 words.
Yeah, that's totally a whole book.
I'd written all the way to the end of a story. But then I realized that wasn't the story I wanted to tell. And that's the problem with being a discovery writer. So as much fun as it is to just follow characters around, it's sometimes they go the wrong way, and you just got to keep filming.
Wow.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So will you chuck those 80,000 words, or will you just take it in a different direction?
Well, I mean, I've already moved those 80,000 words into a separate part of the document, so I'm not deleting them. But basically, I realized it's kind of complicated. I was writing the story for a couple months, actually like 4 or 5 months. It took way too long. And then I realized that the reason none of this is working is this is not what I envisioned in the first place. This isn't where I wanted to go. This isn't the kind of story I wanted to tell, which is actually this book is supposed to be like a fantasy murder mystery. Was the original idea.
Oh, okay.
But maybe that's why it's such a hard time with it because I never written a murder mystery before. And you just mentioned it's difficult.
No, seriously, like definitely give yourself credit for that because I've really tried to study in the last few years, study mysteries in particular and crime fiction in particular, and yeah, it's hard to come up with a good one. I mean, sure, anybody can write a story and, it might have a I forget who it is. I'm sorry. But the famous line is like, every story is a mystery.
I don't know who said that one.
I don't know who said it, but I mean, if you really think about it, it's true. Like even a romance, even a whatever, there's always a mystery, in the hero's journey, there's always some kind of mystery. There's something that you're searching for, trying to solve. But now where was I going with this? It's just hard to write. Like they're complicated. If you do it well,
so I started over now that I know the characters better. Basically, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. I actually only probably threw out 75,000 words. I mean, what's the 5? Sorry.
I'm cringing over here for you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm over it. Don't worry about me. They were the wrong words. I mean, it's bigger. The time is the only thing I miss now. Yeah. Writing those words is useful, but it wasn't what I needed to do.
Well, you know what, buddy? Now you got all the time in the world because
absolutely
going on except what you are doing.
Yeah. So actually, But speaking of time, we are now running low on time. So it's all great. It's fine. But I want to ask you, what have you been reading lately?
Oh yeah. So right now I just started this week it's a new to me author. She's actually very well known. She's a best-selling author. Gina Lamana, and she
Mhm.
has a cozy series called Shoot the Breeze. I just signed up. Kindle Unlimited is having like a 2-month free trial of the Kindle Unlimited. And so my books are in Kindle Unlimited. And so I thought, well, I probably should be a member of this thing. So
Yeah.
I signed up for my free 2 months, and then I've been loading up my Kindle with all these books. So this is one of them, and I'm excited to read it because I know that she's a good author. And then I also just read, I think I mentioned I went to BoucherCon in
Yeah.
Dallas, and I came out with this just a suitcase full of books. And the one good thing about the quarantine is I've been working my way through the books. So this one I just read is a debut author. His name is August Norman, and he wrote Come and Get Me. It's kind of a thriller. It's a little
Mm.
dark, got like the whole serial killer thing going on, but it was pretty good. It was pretty good, especially knowing
Okay.
it's his first book. I enjoyed that. What else? I this this is kind of embarrassing. It's kind of funny though. I Our TV provider added all the Hallmark channels for free because of the quarantine. So I've never had them before, and they have a mystery channel.
Oh
So
boy. Okay.
I've been working all day, and then at night I go and I put my mystery channel on, and they've got all these different um, series and movies, and so I'm calling it research, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm
Hey,
not
why
wasting
not?
time. I'm not being a lazy slug on the couch. I'm doing research.
It's right up your alley. Come on. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, 'cause it's a mystery, so it's cool. And then I think you were asking me about nonfiction,
Yeah. Any
right?
nonfiction? Yeah.
So my son suggested this the beginning of the year. It's called 12 Rules for Life by Jordan
Okay.
Peterson. Have you heard that?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Um, I think you would like it. It's a little dense, so I tend to read about 3 or 4 or 5 pages a day, and then I kind of think about it, and then the next day I read like another. So like it's divided up into 12 rules, and then so the one I just finished was tell the truth or at least don't lie. There's another one about don't something about like don't make your children do something that you're ashamed of, and then I mean, but they're great rules. One of them is just like stand up and put your shoulders back.
Yeah. Yeah. The lobster rule. That's the one I've heard about the
Yeah,
most. The famous one.
yeah, but they're actually I think people kind of write them off as glib, but they're actually really, really good things. Then they just kind of make you think. So I would
Okay.
highly recommend that. 12, and he has like podcasts and
Oh, definitely.
lectures
Yeah.
on YouTube. If you don't really want to read the book, you can watch some of the YouTube videos too, but very, very thought provoking.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, as for me, I watched an episode of I watched the final episode of the first season of The Magicians this week. I think I watched a few other episodes this week too. Magicians is pretty good. Is a pretty cool show so far.
What's it
Very
on?
it's on Netflix right now. I didn't watch it on
Netflix?
TV.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I think the sixth season just recently finished. So they wrapped up the whole show on
Okay.
TV. But I'm way behind, so I only finished season one.
Well, you're
um
ahead of me because I haven't even watched season 1. So
Well,
okay.
it's a pretty it just got a bit of a content warning on the Magicians. It's a pretty violent and maybe oversexed even show. So
Okay. Okay.
full disclosure, and there's cursing and stuff in it. I think it's a show from a channel that I don't know what channel it was originally on, but there's definitely full
Mm-hmm.
full cursing on there. There's no censorship.
Okay.
But yeah,
Why do you like it?
I liked it because it reminded me of another show I really liked, even though The Magicians is a fantasy show, basically. It's
Mhm.
about people who become magicians and then they visit a Narnia style world, but it's very adult themed
Oh,
wise.
okay. Well,
And
darn it. I like Narnia.
yeah, I mean, and I liked it. It's definitely like a Narnia kind of takeoff because there's like it's this because there were books written about this world before
Okay.
in the setting of the show.
Mm.
So the main character basically grew up reading these books about this other world. And he always knew it was real, kind of in the back of his mind, but he didn't even think magic was real until he becomes a magician, whatever.
Oh, okay.
And he gets chosen to go to a magic school. So it's kind of a cross between an adult Harry Potter and Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool mashup there.
But this is almost a spoiler, but the end of the first season definitely is a very Farscape kind of twist to it, wherein the formula for Farscape is that things get worse at the end of every season. The worst possible thing you could think of probably happens at the end of the final episode of each season. And that's basically how that show works too this season. I don't know if it's going to be consistent, but I'm eager to see if it does, because I really like Farscape as well. That was a fun show. For similar reasons actually, but that was of course space opera. And then as far as reading goes, I'm picking up The Dark Tower again in honor of another guest, a number of guests on the show have talked about Stephen King, and I'm pretty sure it was Catherine Hudson who actually who was a huge Dark Tower fan, and I've never finished the series before. I'm only on book 2, so I'm gonna dive in. I've dug out all 6 books that I have. The first 6 books, man. So I'm gonna dive into it. It's quarantine time. I'm gonna get all the way to the Dark Tower.
That's right, because you have to have something to show for this time, so you can say I got through. There you go. See?
Yeah, I read the Dark Tower. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
And the only Stephen King I've done is The Shining and 11/22/63.
Ooh, yeah. See, I go on.
Yeah. Go. No, you go.
See, I haven't read either of those, but I did like. I really like King's writing style. I think he's a really cool writer, just basically how he tells stories. Mm-hmm. But the thing I think is odd about him, as I actually haven't finished. I haven't finished many of his books because they're frankly his actual horror books way too scary for me.
Me too. Oh, absolutely.
It is terrifying. Oh, yeah. Also, thousands of pages, like 2,000 pages long. It's enormous.
I'm not even sure if I got past 50 pages of that, and I had to put it down. Yeah. Those are the only 2 that I could bring myself to finish. Was The Shining and 11/22/63. Which 11/22/63. If someone didn't tell you it was a Stephen King novel, you wouldn't know. It's excellent writing, but it's not like that creepy horror thing.
He's a really cool. That's what I gotta say. He'd be a great writer, almost regardless of what genre he was in. But he just happens to write horror mostly.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So we are way out of time, and it's been fun. So so Kelly, tell people where they can find you and your work online.
Yeah, sure. So probably the easiest place is my website, which is just my name, kellybrakenhoff.com. And I'm also on Facebook at Kelly Brakenhoff Author. And either one of those places will take you to all of my social media and where to get my books, which of course are on Amazon and everywhere. Like I said, my mysteries are in Kindle Unlimited. So that's a good place to read me for free. Nice.
And as for this podcast, you can find us at mentalcellarpublications.com. I'm still working on timneedawriter.com. Need a writer, spelled phonetically, awesome. spelled like the actual words. I have the URL. The site's not there yet, so go to mentalcellarpublications.com. And you can also find all my books on Amazon.com. They're all in Kindle Unlimited currently. That includes, of course, it's great. And actually, right now, as of April 19th, when this show comes out, this episode drops on April 19th, and until April 24th, 2020, you can get my longest, most epic novel potentially for just 99 cents. That's The Origin of Storms, the first book of the Forces of Empire series, and that's epic science fiction. It's also about 1,000 pages long in Kindle Unlimited, so however you want to read it works for me.
I know, right? We don't care if you buy our books, you read them on Kindle Unlimited. We don't care. Just read our books.
Yeah, awesome. Exactly. That's the moral of the story. Yeah. Pick an author, read them, review them, give them a nice review. That's what we like to see.
Love reviews, yes.
So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for being on the show, Kelly. It's been tons of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It was.
Take it easy, everybody. Have a good week, and I'll talk to you again soon.
tears it.